Good morning, everyone. I am Tarakeshwar VB, working at Department of Translation Studies, the English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad. This is my keynote address on the occasion of the one-week faculty development program on MOOCs, e-content development, and OER. I am thankful to the organizers for giving me this opportunity. The Internal Quality Assurance Cell, Government First Grade College, Unugund, Government of Karnataka. In order to understand the MOOCs, e-content development and OER, we need to understand what it is. The faculty development program is about the e-content, MOOCs, SWAYAM and OER. I would like to put all these things together and call them as digital resources. There are certain similarities, there are certain differences in these things. E-content is generally what is the content which is generally in the print form. We will put it on the e-format. MOOC, the massive online open courses. SWAYAM, the Indian government MHRD initiative, similar to MOOCs, and open education resources. MOOCs and SWAYAM are courses that you can take up online, study them, and also give an exam at the end. And if you're successful, you can also get a certificate. E-content could be open, could be closed. E-content could be generated only for a specific target readers or learners. For example, you can create an e-content for your own college students. MOOC and SWAYAM are open, but somebody has to register for it and study it online and then give the exam at the end, and there will be an assessment of your learning and a certification of that too. Open education resources, as the O says, open, is open to everyone. So you can create educational resources which will be open to everyone. But I'm not so concerned about the differences or similarities between these aspects. I just want to put them as digital resources and make my presentation today. We are all familiar with syllabus, textbook, study material, and library resources. We generally conduct our teaching learning activities in our college or universities using these things. Syllabus is generally prescribed by the Board of Studies. Textbooks are written by somebody based on the syllabus prescribed by the Board of Studies. And study material could be produced by the teachers or certain bodies or even the private players. And the library resources are the ones which help you to create all these things: syllabus, textbook, study material. So library is seen as the repository of knowledge from which you create your course content. So when we digitalize this, the content, then from print to digit format, we can call it as digital resources. But again, as I said earlier, there is a difference between the two. The difference is not just digitizing the print resources, but also digitizing teaching, learning, and assessment and evaluation process, or building it digitally as part of MOOC or SWAYAM platform. Because as I said earlier, MOOC and SWAYAM platform require not only you to read the content, but also interact with the faculty there about that content and also take up the exam at the end. So in that sense, you need to conceive of digitizing the teaching as well as the assessment process, not just putting up the learning material on the web so that it would be available to everyone or to the specific learners. Why is it necessary? Why should we do it? What is the problem in going with the print resources that we have now? We are managing with it. We have textbooks, we have library, you have other kinds of material which support these things, which we generally call as guidebooks or kunjis. Then why do we need these online resources? Yes, we are taking into it, and most of the education institutions have started organizing workshops, webinars, seminars, conferences around this topic now, how to move our teaching into online. And it is happening in the last 2 months because we are amidst an unprecedented pandemic situation in the world, COVID, and due to that our educational institutions are locked down physically, and we can't keep quiet. We need to run the institutions, we need to run our profession, we need to continue what we were doing. So in order to do that, yes, we have taken to this online teaching. It could be through Zoom platform, it could be through Google Meet platform, Google Classroom platform, or any other such platforms that are available to you, either by the TIS or by the Microsoft, whatever it is. Are we doing it because we need to justify that we are getting salary even during this lockdown period? We just have to continue our profession. We can't keep quite helpless in the face of the corona pandemic. No, I don't think so. This push is not new. Since the beginning of internet in the Indian context, that was in the late 90s or mid 90s, various regulatory bodies, various quality controlling bodies, regulatory bodies like UGC, AICTE, and quality control bodies like UGC or universities are pushing every educational institution to adopt what they used to call as ICT, that is information and communication technology, as part of our teaching. So the question in the last 2 decades was how to integrate ICT into our teaching. More or less, this ICT was limited to having a computer, putting up our content on the computer, the main salient points of our lecture on the computer, using a PowerPoint presentation like this, project it onto the screen or to the board or to the wall, whatever the case may be. So using PowerPoint presentation to convey points to the audience was the main purpose of ICT as we understood in the last 2 decades. But in the last 1 decade, we have also seen MOOC coming up, that is massive online open courses, where you can register and learn and then take up an exam. That taking up an exam is optional, otherwise simply you can go through the content. Now, even the Government of India, MHRD, has initiated Swayam platform, where courses are put online and you can also interact with the teachers after reading the material. So slowly we are moving from just using the projector to project our teaching to making the entire process of teaching and assessment online. Is it viable? Is it workable? Is the question that we need to ask. There are also questions that have been raised by various people on these changes that we are witnessing in the last 1 decade or so. If this online teaching platform, not just online teaching, the way we are doing it now, where the teacher who is present before a camera in real time communicates with the students who are sitting elsewhere because we can't gather together. The material is already there on the web. You can access it whenever you want it, and you can leave your question and interact with the teacher, or there will be a specified time when the teacher is available for you to interact, or you can conduct it completely online, according to the convenience of both teacher and the student. So in that sense, the traditional teaching, which involved the face-to-face contact of the student and the teacher, and a physical space where they interact, is going to disappear. The exam, which also required you to physically sit in a particular place and answer questions, that is also going to change. If that is the case, this is completely different from the earlier distance education method that we had, where there will be a course content that will be given to you, you read on your own, and then there used to be contact program, and the contact program was mandatory. Sorry. And once the contact program is over, you will also have the physical examination. So this new system is also different from the distance education system that we have. If this is going to be the new norm tomorrow, that's what everybody is fearing. Because the managers of higher education institution are also thinking that if the content can be digitalized and made accessible, and the teachers can be dispensed with. Once the teachers can be dispensed with, the amount of expenditure, the amount that you are going to pay for the teachers would drastically come down. So many people believe that the teachers are going to lose jobs. And another objection is that there are many undesirable changes that are going to creep in. And we don't know what are the implications of these changes. And even if you had asked me 3 months back whether I would have agreed to deliver a keynote address 1 week before as a kind of recorded speech, I don't think I would have agreed it. I wouldn't have agreed. If that is the case, what made me to agree for it? Is just the COVID situation? Are people like me thinking that this is just a temporary condition which will pass away in another 15 days or 1 month or 2 months or even 6 months? Once a vaccination is found for COVID, things will be back to normal, what we know about it, how we know about it, or is it going to continue? Many people are suggesting that the post-COVID situation is going to be drastically different. Yes, it is going to be drastically different, but some of these trends that we are seeing today, or which might come up in a full-fledged form tomorrow, were already there in the last 2-3 decades. As I was saying, in the last 2-3 decades, everybody was pushing us towards using ICT, upgrading our skills through MOOC, Swayam, and things like that. They were also asking us to talk about use e-governance, and even admission process in most of the states have become online, where you can submit application online and the results are announced online. Even the assessment results are announced online. So in that sense, e-governance was part of it. So in that sense, there are going to be a lot of changes, and some of these changes could be desirable and some of these changes could be undesirable. So that's the fear that many of the teachers are having today. Another important question that has been raised by these people is that India is a country where there is a lot of socio-economic inequality. We have haves and have-nots, both in terms of their social capital and as well as economic capital, which puts them in different positions of advantage or disadvantage in accessing the education. If everything is going to be moved online, And when there is a vast inequality in terms of access to the technology, will it further inequalities in our society? Is the question that many people are raising. Given the inequalities in our country, it is true that not many will have access to the technology. At least now we are running this show in the last 2 decades because of the smartphones. But smartphones are not meant to study online. You need to have a desktop or at least a laptop to do that, or a tab, but many of them are accessing through phone. And we have also had a lot of complaints about that they are not able to access it. And along with the lockdown, it has become more problematic. If somebody's computer, laptop, or even phone crashes, they don't have alternatives because they can't uh, get it repaired easily. So in that sense, we are getting a lot of complaints, and many people are saying that they don't have access to it. And apart from that, there are other problems too. Like while I was teaching to a group of students from my college in Bangalore, and the person who had facilitated my talk with these students had not muted the microphones of all the students. Even I had requested for that not to mute them because I would like to have interaction with them. Because in my experience of more than 2 decades of teaching, I found that when you look into the eyes of the students and talk to them, interact with them, then they're able to take in what you're saying rather than simply giving a lecture, irrespective of who is sitting in front of you, whether they're listening to it or not, whether they're understanding it or not. Looking into their eyes, looking into their face will let me know whether they're understanding it or not, and accordingly I can uh, change my teaching ways. So I'd asked the facilitator not to uh, mute the microphones, and in the middle of my talk with them, I could see that somebody was washing utensils. The sound used to come to me. The video, that put it off themselves. That shows that if you are at home, and especially if you're a girl, you think that you're not doing anything. So the parents would ask, why don't you wash utensils? And this lecture is organized by the college, so they want to attend to it. And also they can't go against their parents. So maybe a student was washing the utensils at the same time and also listening to my talk. And somebody else had sat under a tree because the place where they were, maybe they were not getting the signals, or they did not want to show their environment of their home, because everybody will not have the same home, and we are afraid that people are going to judge us based on the background that I have in my online interaction. If I have a big shelf behind me with books, then okay, I must be a knowledgeable person. If I don't have my bookshelf behind me while speaking to you, you might think that I'm not a knowledgeable person. Similarly, people come from different backgrounds. Their home environment would be different. I don't know whether we can expose them to everyone. So people are afraid of exposing themselves in their home environment. In that sense, the college classroom is a level playing field. So there is gender inequality, the class inequalities, all these things are also there, and we don't know what kind of problems or undesirable changes in the attitude of the students it might bring in. We need to examine some of these things in detail. First and foremost, whether we are going to lose jobs as teachers, We'll examine that. In order to examine that, we need to understand what is higher education. If we call it as university system in India, what is this university system? So we know that higher education is called as tertiary education. We have primary, secondary, and the tertiary. And the tertiary education in popular parlance is known as university system. What is a university? When did the universities come into existence? If you define universities as institutions of higher learning, then these institutions existed. You can take the name of Takshashila, Nalanda, or University of Bologna in West, or in some other parts of the world. So, because knowledge was essential for us, and we had institutional mechanism to produce knowledge and disseminate them. But in India, we know that the universities, as we know today, came into existence in the mid-19th century, hardly more than 170 years back, and it was a colonial endeavor in India. It was the colonial administration which created universities in what we today call as Kolkata, Mumbai, Chennai. But these universities were based on the model that was available to them in the Europe. In Europe, the universities began in 10th to 12th century. University of Bologna in Italy is supposed to be one of the oldest universities. So that is, if you define universities in the present format, if you simply define them as institutions of higher learning, then you can go back to Takshashila, Nalanda, and even to the old ages where in Itihasa Purana we hear that there were people who were going to the Rishis, whom we addressed as Rishis, and they lived with these Rishis and learned things from them in the forest, living with the Rishi and doing all the kind of household work that the Guru Patni or Rishi Patni used to ask us. So, in that sense, learning, institutions of higher learning existed from long back. But if you look at universities as the institutions which not just disseminate knowledge, but also certify knowledge, then some institutions that existed in Egypt or in Japan in 9th century, they were also involved in certifying people whether this person has this knowledge or not. So degree granting or certifying agency. So depending on how you define a university, the history of the university varies from the age of Puranas to 9th century in Egypt or Japan to 10th to 12th century in Europe to 19th century in India. Or Takshashila Nalanda in the pre-Christian era, pre-common era. So in that sense, how we define university is important. If you define university, one of the definitions would be where the learner and the person from whom the learner is learning come together. If there is a teacher has to be there and a learner has to be there. So where learner and teachers come together for the purpose of acquiring knowledge and disseminating knowledge, if you call that as the university, and this principle has been common to most of the universities, that it is a place of higher learning where students and teachers congregate together for the purpose of production of knowledge and dissemination of knowledge. So the function is to produce knowledge and disseminate knowledge. And how do you do it? Knowledge exists primarily in language. Without language, there is no knowledge. You can argue that yes, we gain knowledge through experience, through my cognitive abilities, through my panchendriyas. by doing certain things, by seeing certain things, by tasting certain things. But if I am not unable to transfer the knowledge that I have acquired through my experience to others, what is the use of it? The learnable knowledge has to be in the form of language. If I am able to verbalize my experiential knowledge and pass it on to others, without that experience, they can also acquire that knowledge. This is very important. So the language is important, and knowledge exists in the form of language. It's basically a linguistic content. So that has to be transferred. Earlier, it used to happen orally from the mouth of the guru to the pupil, the student, the learner. So orality played a major role because it has to come from the mouth of the guru. That was very important. Because guru was seen, or the teacher was seen as the repository of knowledge. But once the script was introduced, this changed. The teacher was, to some extent, ceased to be the repository of knowledge. A manuscript, a palm leaf manuscript, becomes the repository of knowledge, because the knowledge that I have obtained through my experience and through oral form from the experiences of others gets codified in the manuscript. But even in this era, when manuscript became the repository of knowledge, that did not displace the teacher from the learning or production of knowledge and dissemination of knowledge process. Even then, the teacher was very important, because teacher was also in possession of the manuscripts. Because manuscript as a material was difficult to make, and it was difficult to write on it. It was an highly skilled job. If I want a manuscript, I have to get hold of the original one, then go to the skilled labor and give it to that person, asking him or her to copy it down for me. It was a laborious process, a skilled process, and also it required a lot of capital, money. So not everyone could get a copy of the manuscripts. So in that sense, manuscript used to be with the guru. The guru was using, or the teacher was using the manuscript as an aid. So in that sense, even when the knowledge which exists in language moved from orality to script, it did not displace the teacher. Now, from script, it moves on to the print. With print, it was easy to have multiple copies of the text. So you can print the textbook and give it to many people. You can print a book and then give it to thousands of people. So in that sense, the book was more democratic in nature, though it also required a capital. You need to invest on it. But the investment vis-a-vis the manuscript was less. So even when the books came into existence, that did not displace the teacher. In fact, all these days, we were depending on the books. The syllabus exists in the form of a syllabus book. The textbook, which is based on the syllabus, exists in the form of a book. The guidebook or the punji or the notes also exist in the form of a book. And the reference books that are there in the library or other books that are there in the library, they also exist in the form of books. But in spite of having all these things, the teacher was not dislodged from the teaching learning process. Teacher was very much there even in that system. So when we are moving from print to digital, I don't think we can displace the teacher easily. It is not possible to displace the teacher easily. Even today, even when we are not taken into digital content, digital classroom in a major way, our students can access knowledge through internet. They can sit in your class and access it through laptop, which if it is permissible. In fact, many of our state governments have given students laptop so that they can use it. So some of the schools and colleges allow them to use it in the classroom. In some private universities, they have made it mandatory. In fact, they collect the fees in the beginning and they give the laptop to you as part of the package. So you need to use the laptop in the classroom. So this is already underway. And even if it is not, you can always access it outside. Through internet, you can access any kind of material. So slowly the world around us is changing. So it brings it, if the world around us is changing, it is also high time that we need to change ourselves. Otherwise, we might become obsolete. That is another thing. But the paradox is that if we change ourselves, if you put all our content online, does it make me redundant? Is the question that we need to answer. Sorry, just a little itch. So the digital classroom, that is the topic that is being discussed everywhere now. Will there be the absence of teacher? Right now, even Swayam and MOOC, there will be a teacher, but they will not be teaching you directly. The content is already there. You can interact with them online at a given point of time, or you leave your questions there. They will answer it later. Are we going to have artificial intelligence there? You ask the questions, like frequently asked questions. Many of the website people know, they know that what kind of questions that you are going to ask. Answers are already ready. So you type your question, the answer will come. And the AI, the artificial intelligence, will decide what kind of questions are going to come and how to pick the answer for that particular question. So the teacher is going to be absent. That's something that everybody is worried. Using Zoom, Google Classroom, Google Meet, or Microsoft platform, or even Cisco platform, any of this platform, right now it is video teaching more. The teachers are there. It is because most of these platforms are imitating the actual classroom. They are trying to bring in all the features of a classroom. So I am not only speaking, I can also make a presentation here. I can also interact with the students in real time. I can ask you to raise your hands, and once you raise your hands, I can unmute you and ask your question, ask you to make a question, ask you to state your question. I can interact with you. Or we also have a chatting facility where we can chat with each other. And in some platform, we can also send the material through this platform. In that sense, yes, right now the teacher is not obsolete, but the classroom is becoming obsolete. But there is a danger, like in MOOC and Swayam, that the number of teachers that are required could be less. And the face-to-face contact that we have, either physically or virtually, might also disappear. That is what worrying many of the people. We don't know how some of these changes that we are witnessing today travel in with direction. They might change their course too, depending on how various factors, forces intervene in this process. We have to wait and watch, but we have to be on guard. If the digital classroom is trying to imitate the real classroom, is there a real classroom? A classroom in a central university, a classroom in a private university, a classroom in a newly started university, and a classroom in a university remotely located, which is quite old, where the funds have been dried up, would be different. A classroom in a government school remotely located could be different. Even among the government school, Some schools might have good facilities. So there is no real classroom as such. And the classroom is not just the physical environment. If it is a space, and the recent theories about production of space, Lefferre, in fact, says that the spaces are not just physical. The memories attached to it, the emotions that it produces. So I don't know whether the digital classroom can produce those memories. If you go to a classroom and if you look at the desk will tell you about a lot of stories which are emotional. So the memories and the emotions that is attached with the classroom, I don't know what is going to happen to that. Will these digital virtual classrooms bring back those memories? Or they will create a different kind of memories? We have to wait and watch. And if the real classroom is also going to continue, and the real classroom will start imitating the virtual classroom. So tomorrow, even in the physical classroom, I will be using many of the colleges, universities are using PA system now, personal address system. I go to a mic, I speak, and I also make a presentation. And if this is a big class, I might also project myself onto the screen. So the real classrooms might also imitate the virtual classrooms. So what are the consequences of such things is something that we need to look at. And as I said earlier, the student learner, what will happen to them? We are only thinking in terms of the teacher. Whether the teacher is going to be absent or teacher will continue. What will happen to the space called classroom? If it is going to be replicated digitally, virtual classroom, will it lack memories and space? Because the physical space is attached with memories and emotions. What kind of memories, emotions will be produced by the digital classroom, we don't know. And the student learner, we don't know. As I was saying, if I am not able to see the student, because the student doesn't want to switch on the video mode for the fear of others noticing his living conditions, his room, his house, and if there is one room house in which several people are living, they don't want to do it. So how are you going to take the attendance? Number one. And if some student who is very clever will switch it off, will go off. The class, yes, attended, online presence is there because the computer is running or the mobile is running. You see the participants list, the name is there. Somebody else might be sitting there or nobody might be sitting there. So the absentee student learner, what will happen to it? Something that we need to think about. Or even if they are sitting in front of the camera, they might be doing something else. It's absolutely possible. Even in the physical classroom, we have seen how students in the last benches play games using their mobile or something else. So all these things are possible even in online. So how do you ensure it? Is the question that is going to come up again and again, and whether everybody will be able to raise their hand and discuss with this teacher online in front of everyone, or it has to be some offline, because some students prefer to come to the staff room and discuss with the teacher rather than raising their questions in the classroom, because other students might look at them as, oh, you didn't understand even this. There are certain dynamics between the members of the class. We don't know how we are going to address all these things. And this absentee student is something that we need to seriously think about. And what are the repercussions of it? I don't know. Because this simulacra, digital classroom, simulating the real, which appears to be real. So we call it as virtual. Yes, it is there. I can feel it. What is the politics of it? Philosophers, the social scientists are theorizing about this, the concept of simulacra, simulating something virtually. What are the implications of it in the last 2-3 decades? Baudrillard is one of the scholars who has looked at it. and we have to wait and watch and theorize and critically reflect on the digital classroom, online teaching in the coming year. What are the social consequences of it? What are the philosophical consequences of it? What are the economic consequences of it? If you are digitalizing the materials, what does that mean? Are there add-on courses? Many of these MOOC and SWAYAM courses are add-on courses. So your teaching is going on. Simultaneously, you can do one more course online. And now the UGC has also approved simultaneously continuing two courses, one being the face-to-face mode. So that means you can add on new knowledge or new skill to your repertoire so that your repertoire will be good and the job prospects for you would be good. If it is just an add-on course which you are going to do online, then it is not a replacement for the existing physical face-to-face mode classroom activities. But it is also true that increasingly our students are generally, many of us are relying on DIY, do it yourself videos. Again, the last 2 months has clearly indicated to us that after the situation, if it becomes normal, we can survive without going to a pani puri wala or a pizza wala. In social media, I have seen many people posting how they made pani puri and ate it, how they made pizza and ate it. So everybody has become an expert in making pani puri and pizza if I go by social media posts. And those who are in social media, I'm not talking about others who are walking on roads, who never had a chance to be on the social media and at home and do these experiments. That apart, I'm aware of these discrepancies. And we also see in the entertainment media, especially in the reality shows, in dance competition, singing competition, many contestants, when the judges ask them, where did you get your training? Who is your guru who has trained it? Many of them say, I don't have a guru, I have not got any training. Then how do you do it? I've learned on my own. How? By watching videos online, YouTube. So in that sense, we are slowly moving towards learning online. And this is not something new. In the absence of the teacher, student learning and excelling in that particular skill goes back to Ekalavya. When the guru denied him the training, he goes back, creates a virtual guru, the idol of the guru, and in front of the guru he practices it. So it goes back to it. So similarly today it is possible, and we have umpteen number of examples from the social media and then entertainment industry, self-made people without getting a formal training, they have been able to excel in a particular field. In that case, what will happen to the teacher? Will the teacher be the navigator? The problem with the internet today is there are too many things. If I open MOOC platform or SWAYAM platform, there are so many courses. What should I do? Which one I should choose? How to go about it? What after what? There's nothing. It's like going to a library, I don't know anything. Which book I should start from? Which one I should pick it up? After this, which one I need to go for? You need some guide. And teacher used to be that guide. Will the teacher be the same kind of navigator even in the digital world? Now with this workshop, many of you might become or excel in e-content developing, MOOC course developing, SWAYAM course developing. If you create the content and put it on the online, somebody has to guide somebody which one they have to choose, because there will be competing versions. That is possible with internet. For anything, there will be 2-3 views. Which one you are going to choose? How are you going to look at it? Will again teacher be the navigator who will tell you where to go, what to look for, how to analyze it? Because we have always looked at the figure of the teacher as an ethical subject, somebody who will guide me in the right path. If many of you have children at home, if you tell them, no, 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 that is not right, this is what it is. No, 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 you are wrong. My teacher has told me this is right. So they believe the teacher. Teacher is such a kind of ethical entity, a subject, ethical subject in our life. Will this teacher as a navigator, teacher whom we look up to guide us, will disappear? I don't think so. Or the wisdom experience of the teacher and then the new algorithm and the artificial intelligence. Now if you type something, if you want to know something on Google, if you type, the Google algorithm will bring in what you want. And if you want one particular thing, it will list 10,000 or 1 lakh website where information related to these things are available. How do you go about it? Will teacher will be the new curator? Who will look at all these links, content, and curate it specifically for the student. See, I have picked up these things. Please go through these things. So will teacher be the new curator in the digital world? Or even artificial intelligence or algorithm will take over the experience and wisdom of the teacher? Something worth watching in the near future. So add-on materials, add-on courses are reinforcing material. That is, teacher is always teaching in the classroom. The physical face-to-face mode exists. But add-on courses, add-on materials like coaching class, extra classes. So will this new e-content, digital material will be like that, which will reinforce what has actually happened in the classroom? Or you already learn in the virtual world, in the digital world, and come back to the teacher to get clarifications. So the teacher will reinforce certain things and say, no, avoid these things. So the role of the teacher is going to change drastically. And how this is going to change the in the Indian context is something that we need to be worried about. Because if you look at some of the narratives, mainly the autobiographical narratives of the early 20th century, even mid 20th century, the role of educational space was of secularizing it. We leave our caste, class, religion at home, come to the classroom, mingle with others, and learn how to deal with multicultural spaces. So it had the potential to secularize the Indian citizens. This was the normative assumptions about our educational institutions. How far our educational institutions have lived up to it, especially in the late 90s, is a different issue. I will not get into that. But that was the role that was assigned to educational institutions. And yes, there were problems, but in spite of that, by and large, educational spaces created subjects who thought themselves as Indian citizens, not as being a member of a particular community, ethnic community. And then the question of accessibility is a serious issue which can be addressed. I'm not saying which cannot be addressed and should be addressed. by the managers of educational institutions. Both private and the state players have to seriously think about the question of accessibility. Otherwise, ethically, it will be disaster for our education system, because the last decade, our government said accessibility, increase the accessibility was the main focus, increase the enrollment 5%, 10%. Now, with this shift, if the accessibility goes down, then uh, the future generation or the next generation will not pardon us. So we need, it can be addressed. I'm not saying it cannot be addressed, but we should address it. We cannot gloss over it, is the point that I'm trying to make. So as I was saying, the teachers, we need to have self-reflexivity of not just thinking in terms of digitizing the course content. It is good to digitize the course content, but the implications of digitizing the course content, digitalizing the process of teaching learning itself, we need to critically reflect on it. What are the implications, the social repercussions in the Indian context that we need to look at. But whatever we say, internet, digital world will only give you information. How to process the information, how to produce knowledge. All these are again disseminating knowledge. But universities are not simply the institutions which disseminate knowledge. In order to disseminate knowledge, you need to produce knowledge. So production of knowledge and dissemination of knowledge should happen together. That's why the regulatory bodies in India have pushed the teachers continuously to produce, do research. They say do research, publish in journals. But we know quality of research that is happening, we need to upgrade it. But when we move to this new system that might come up in the near future, the research should not be a casualty. Dissemination of information is fine, but dissemination of knowledge or production of knowledge requires you to know about theories of knowledge. One is empiricism, using your cognitive abilities or panchendriyas, you understand the things around you. So how do you understand things around it? You need to build that ability among your students. That is one. Another is rationality. How to apply reason and logic and get what you want and produce what knowledge you want. That rationality, empiricism, or phenomenology, which talks about the knowledge that you get through the senses and also the pre-knowledge that already exists in you and the interaction between the two which produces knowledge, and also the question of subjectivity and objectivity. Whether we can be, when producing knowledge, whether we can be objective to the object of our study or whether we bring in our own concerns in understanding it. So these questions of objectivity and subjectivity, that has to be taught. Because the learners have to develop how to take the information available in the digital world. That is where the question of theories of knowledge and an awareness of it and the repercussions of knowledge that I am producing or the repercussions of accepting something as knowledge becomes important. That should not be lost in this shift. And it is also imperative for us to think in terms of what new ethics and morality we need. Because we also looked at educational spaces as imparting ethics and morality. And if the world is changing, new spaces are created, virtual spaces being created. And we know what kind of virtual space that we have created right now. It could be really horrible for somebody. It's very easy to assassinate somebody's character in the web. So it requires instilling certain kind of ethics and morality among the learners, because our nation needs this new ethics, new morality, and how are you going to impart it? So don't think in terms of just passing on the content, because the what content becomes content only in a particular epistemological framework, only in a particular theoretical framework. If you can't go to that level, then it would be a disaster. I think I have taken too much of time. Let me close the talk with these remarks. I hope some of these issues will be dealt with in this week long faculty development program by the resource person. There are interesting topics and interesting resource persons uh, in this week long program. I hope these issues will be addressed by them in their talk. And I also wish all the best to the organizers and hope that this program would help us to take the right steps in the inevitable and necessary changes that we are seeing all around us now. Thank you very much for bearing with me and listening to me for so long. I also thank the organizers, especially Sharan Gaur Patil, for inviting me to be the keynote speaker for this week-long faculty development program. Thank you very much.